Okay, welcome back, folks. This is part two of making our dice. In this video, we're just going to be putting in the rest of our numbers here. In video one, we got our shape made, our chamfers done on all the edges, and we have 1 on the top. So next up, after 1, probably the next easiest number to do would be, say, the 3, because we're also starting with 1 dot in the middle, and then we need another couple over on the edges. So let's do a sketch here on this one. Doesn't really matter which side you pick. We just need to make sure that we match the 1 with the 6 are on opposite edges, and the 3 and the 4 are on opposite edges, and the 2 and the 5. So to begin with, it's the same as the other one. I'm going to put a circle in the middle. Now I need to make sure I'm actually getting the middle here. So if you kind of look over on the side here, you can just sort of see this blue triangle which forms. That means that we're at the midpoint of this line. And so the midpoint is going to be the middle. We can see the green line, that's the origin line for the middle of our other part here. So if you slowly drag it over here and you drag that one across, you can see where those dotted lines meet is where we want to go. And I'm going to make this, 4 millimeters. Okay. Now I'm not quite done this sketch yet because I need to make those 2 other holes. So I'm going to zoom in just enough that we can see our grid lines 1 millimeter apart. If we zoom out far enough, all of a sudden they become 2 millimeters apart, so I want to make sure they're on 1 millimeter apart. And do you notice how some of them are a little darker than the others? I'm just going to kind of measure up. If this is 5 millimeters up, that's 10 millimeters up. And I'm going to go 5, 10 millimeters over, and I'm just going to make another circle there. And do the same on the other side. Go over 10 millimeters and 10 millimeters and make another circle 4 millimeters wide there. Let's zoom out and see how that looks. I'd say that looks all right. Okay, so I'm going to finish that sketch and extrude these 3 parts. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to type in -1, and there we go. So next up, I'm going to make the 2. So having 2 dots is going to be fairly similar to having 3 dots there, except I want them to not have 1 in the middle. So I'm going to make a sketch here on this plane and zoom in a little bit. So I want to find the same spot, but maybe I'll put the 2 on opposite corners from the 3, so it's going over on this side. So here's our middle point. I'm going to go over 10 and over 10. So we should be fairly close to the edge here. It should be about 9 millimeters from either edge. And there we go. And I can see the darker lines here, so I'm going to put it there, and 4 millimeters. Okay, finish that sketch, extrude these 2 parts down, -1, hit enter. All right. So now we've picked which sides are going to be what. What this means now is I need to start matching the numbers on the opposite sides. So if there's 2 on this side, it needs to add up to 7. That's the thing about 6-sided dice. If there's 2 on this side, it needs to be a 5 over on this side. So I'm going to click on the back face so it just evens itself out. Zoom in and make a sketch here on this face. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so I can see, there we go, those grid lines. So to make a 5, I'm going to start in the middle again. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And finish that sketch. Now I could put 4 circles around the side, like I should do this all in one sketch. I could put 4 circles around the side by just kind of putting them in there. I'm going to show you how the pattern tool works though. So we're going to put another circle in, same point as with the 2 and the 3. I'm going to put it there, except with this one, I'm then going to do a create, and I want to do a rectangular pattern. So the objects I want to pattern is this one, and it gives you 2 options here. There's 2 directions for you to make this kind of pattern. So I want this one to go over until it's centered on that other point there. Now we've made another one here in the middle. That's because we have 3 patterns being made. We only actually want 2 in this scenario. Okay, and before you hit enter or do anything else, also click and drag this other arrow here and drag these 2 down until they are also centered on this darker gray line here. It's going to be minus 10 millimeters away, the same as this one was 10 millimeters over this way, except just make sure that you only have 2 patterns being made. Okay, and then hit enter. There we go. So this would be super handy when you want to do like 20 of something. When you're only doing 4, it's not that much of a pain in the butt to draw in 4 of them. But when you make a pattern, all of a sudden, if I wanted to say change the size of these, maybe I figured uh, these holes are a little too big in there, I could just say edit the sketch. Well, we're already in the sketch mode, and I could dimension the first one. Maybe I just want it to be 2 millimeters and hit enter. All of the other ones would then turn to 2 millimeters. So I wouldn't need to go into each individual circle and resize them all. I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that. Make them 4 millimeters again. Finish that sketch. Extrude these 5 parts. -1. Okay. So to make the 4, it's basically the same thing as making the 5, except I need to do it over on this plane over here. So let's do that real quick. Make a sketch. Don't want to do a middle one, but I do want to do this one here, 4 millimeters. And then I'm going to make a rectangular pattern of that shape. We're going to pull it over 10 millimeters and do 2, and pull it over 10 millimeters and do 2. Okay. Finish. Extrude. 1, 2, 3, 4. -1 millimeter. So now we're awfully close. We just need to put 6 over on this side over here. So let's make a sketch. So 6 is going to be a little more interesting. I'm going to use the same pattern tool just because I can. And may as well start in the same position. So this is a little harder because it's a little more shaded for some reason. I think it's because we're on the bottom side. You can sort of see those lines there. I'm going to start right here. If you're not sure where you're starting and you want to make sure you start in the right place, you can always just make a little construction line. We're just going up 5 millimeters and then over 5 millimeters. Make sure it's 90 degrees. Okay. And then from that point, we are making a circle, 4 millimeters. Okay. And then I want to make a rectangular pattern of this. So this shape, let's go this way, 10 millimeters, and only do 2. And then we'll say go this way, 10 millimeters, but we'll leave it on 3, which then evenly spaces out all of our other points there. And if I was really keen, I could trim out these parts here because we don't need them. It's not going to matter in the end. You just need to now extrude 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. -1 millimeter. And there you have it. So you might want to play with a few other things. Maybe your 6 looks a little bit too wide. Maybe you want to push them in a little bit closer together. Maybe you would want to add a little bit of a fillet to all of your pieces here. So I don't know, maybe like a 0.5 millimeter fillet to the bottoms just to round them out a little bit more. Is it going to make a difference? I'm not totally sure. But anyway, that's there's the cube. So at this point, taking this over to the 3D printer, what you would need to do is, first off, I would save it if I were you. Save it into some kind of folder that you know about. So I'm going to save it into my testing folder. We're going to call this dice and hit save. And then to actually 3D print this, I'm going to right click on body 1, which is my only body, save as STL. And then that saves it to the 3D printing files Dropbox here. So let's save this as dice.stl, and then this is ready to print. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'll catch you at the next one.